Hello everybody, it's Girl Got Game and welcome to another Gander video. Today I am checking out the demo for Snow White Ashes by Endesis. I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly. I was reached out to by Eli, the developer of this visual novel, and he asked me if I would consider taking a look at it, and I said absolutely, because just looking at the screenshots, it was gorgeous. So let me just give you a quick backstory of what this game's about. Lose your heart in this dark fairy tale romance. Once upon a winter night, you enter the woods in search of a beast. But the hunter you find is so charming and sweet. Is he truly the monster you seek? And there's also a small blurb after that that says, one winter night you find a hunter in the woods, a man so warm and charming you feel as if you've known him all your life. But appearances can be deceiving. You'd know that well, wouldn't you? So I'm like, who's the real beast? Is it the guy? Is it us? Maybe both? I don't know. But anyway, this looks gorgeous. I haven't played a dark fairy tale visual novel in ever? I don't know if it's ever or it's been a long time. Anyway, so I'm excited. Much excited. Let us begin. Look at this art. Gorgeous. I walk through an ashen wood alone. Frozen earth crunches, crick, crack beneath my feet. Fat, blurry snowflakes fly by, aglow with the moon's bright light. I can never truly be lost, not on a night like this, when she shines, so round and full, gazing down from the winter sky above. Still, I'd best look like I am, instead of what I truly am. Ha ha ha. I meander through ashen trails, between the birches, silver girths stripped with dark, around the trunks of pines that reach the sky, boughs buried with snow. I walk between the shadows, slip through pools of light and dark, as if I have somewhere to be, but no knowledge of what path might take me to it. All the while I wrap myself in a cape of red wool, pulling its rough spun fabric and fine needlework tight about my shoulders. All right, little Miss Red Riding Hood. My hands I rest inside thick sheepskin gloves. A wolf in sheep's clothing, eh? Wow, okay. I like it, I like it. Even with the snow and the mountain air in my face, the thrill of the hunt keeps the bite of cold at bay. My heart beats with an unfamiliar feeling, a pounding, jittering rhythm. I shiver with excitement. I hope whatever's out there mistakes it for fear. I sink my hands deep into the pockets of my skirts, running my gloved fingers along the edge of the deadly sharpened point I carry. In a strange way, it feels more totem than weapon. I suppose I seek no ordinary prey. I almost smile. Like my quarry, how strange to think that I too might hide my fangs. And so I wander on, trembling like a newborn lamb. I wonder how the beast might appear. Would it call out to me, in a voice nectar sweet, promising shelter? Would it lure me to its mountain lair, whispering honeyed words as it led me to a place where no screams can echo? Would it stalk me patiently, waiting for the moment I collapse, cold, exhausted in the snow? As I wander and wonder, I find myself growing impatient, the cause of my shaking turning from thrill to frost. I like that. As I wander and wonder. When would it appear? Would it appear? Am I not the image of the perfect prey? I'm running out of time. No, such vexations are a luxury I can't indulge in. I cannot rush this. I need my mind clear. Surely there is some way of drawing its attention to me until it can no longer look away. I feel in my pockets for the small, sharp knife I'd use to whittle my weapon to its deadly point. Are you a vampire hunter? What are you... Like, do you have a stake? What's going on? What simpler way to entice a beast than with iron freshly drawn? But did I need to go so far? Perhaps it was not flesh it was hungry for. Perhaps I simply needed to call out to it. Draw your blood or sing. I'm I'm not a fan of blood personally. I am a fan of singing, however. So I shall sing, and we'll see how that goes. So call to it I do. I close my eyes and take a deep breath, and then I raise my voice to song. My unfamiliar tongue savors each word of the well-worn tune. Ooh. The mist queen, wrapped in fog, how softly does she go, with a silver veil round her head that shines like fallen snow. I shiver now to look at her, in moonshine lit aglow. But before I can continue to the second verse, a sudden sound echoes in the distance. I turn. No longer do I hear the wind through the trees, the hooting of an owl, or the scurrying of a squirrel. It is as if the world has gone completely silent and still, save for a pair of carefully approaching footsteps. Ah, I do hear it. Hold on. I'm actually going to just turn the sound up a little bit. Let's see. There we go. Perfect. It is seconds longer before I see it, a pinprick of light in the distance, a blur of white like the snow swirling around me. Gradually it comes closer, blinking, flickering, bright. All the while I stay still, so still, like my heart has forgotten its beat. Closer it draws, closer still, until finally I make out its face, framed in white, lock eyes with it. With him. Wow, he is gorgeous. And a green bow. I can't move or turn away. I can't even breathe. That eye stares back at me with so deep a green. Well, that's true, his eye is green.
Are you lost?
He says, and like a spell broken, I shake out of my daze, the wind and the sound of the night roaring in my ears. His voice cuts through it all, clear as a bell.
Are you cold?
The figure wears the skin of a man. A skin so impossibly fair it reminds me of the broken statue of an angel I once saw in a ruined castle, the surface of its marble pallor cold as ice when I brushed it with my fingertips. How flawlessly smooth, how otherworldly, that lonely thing left behind in a place of broken granite and brittle stone. I wonder if the being before me is as cold to the touch. He dresses from head to toe in white, shrouded in white, from his fine wool coat to his fur-trimmed cape and soft leather gloves. Even his hair, cascades of gentle curls that frame his face, shine silver, a radiant halo lit from the glow of the lantern he carries in his hand. The other he extends to me.
Are you lost?
He asks again.
I won't hurt you. I'll see you to safety, I promise.
The sound of his voice makes all the worry in the world melt away. It is so musical, so warm and calming, like liquid honey. It takes all my will not to take his hand and offer all at once. I'll be honest. I'm not lost. Ooh, we get to see our girl. She is gorgeous too. Flowers in her hair and everything. I'm not lost, I say.
Then pray tell, why are you alone here at night?
I could ask the same of you, stranger, I declare boldly, though I leave a trace of hesitation in my voice, a tremble as I shiver in the cold. I am an innocent, vulnerable thing hiding my fears, but you can smell them, taste them, can't you?
I'm simply a traveler passing through. I never thought I'd come across another soul here, but then I heard your song. And what a lovely voice you have, demoiselle.
His smile is as warm as sunlight, gentle, disarming, kind. Were I naive, I'd take his answer without question. but I am not. Do you not fear the woods? The wolves?
I've wandered through places far more dangerous than this. The trees almost seem peaceful, don't they?
The branches bend in the wind as the snow swirls softly. You have courage indeed, good traveler.
And what of you? Have you a place to shelter? The nearest village is hours away.
I trail off with a quiver, a tone of reluctance. I am a trembling lamb looking for her shepherd.
Please, come with me. I'm sojourning not far from here. You can share my fire and stay the night in safety.
I suppose I can't refuse such a kind offer, I reply, letting relief wash over my words. Show me your true face. Show me your fangs. Then please, good sir, lead the way. With his free hand, he offers me his arm. I hesitate. Such closeness would avail me to my weapon, but just as easily put me at his mercy. How quickly could he strike back? With what strength could he stop me if I failed? We have a part to play. Let's see how far this goes. I'm totally not just taking his arm because he's very attractive and I've been taken in by his honeyed words. Him. I reach for his outstretched hand. My fingers linger on his gloved ones for only a moment before he links his arm through mine, sweeping his cloak around the both of us in one elegant motion. Wow. Gorgeous! So gorgeous. I cannot help but gasp.
Forgive me if I startled you. I thought you'd be warmer this way.
I'm fine, I stammer, digging my other arm deep into my pockets, gripping my weapon tight. His wool cloak and warm furs around my shoulders do keep away the cold. But I feel no warmth from him, no blush across his pallid cheeks, not one breath from his lips fogging in the night air. Interesting. He smells of incense and pine and, faintly, the metallic tang of iron. Blood. Oh, so faintly. I wonder if I've made a mistake. Well, too late now. My heart hammers as I walk beside him, its beat an unfamiliar drumming in my chest. Thankfully, he slows his stride to match mine. I take a deep breath and keep myself steady, staying alert as he leads me onward through the trees. It does not seem he will strike me here. Yeah, I'm like, if he wanted to, he didn't have to, like, go through the whole charade of, like, are you lost? And do you want to, like, come hang out at my fire thing? So I'm like, let's see where we're going. I must be patient. I will wait. Maybe he enjoys playing with his prey. I don't know.
Might I ask your name?
He says after we have walked some steps from the clearing. I have worn names like they were ribbons in my hair, dozens of names in all colors and shapes. To give one away now would be a frivolous thing. But names, even false ones, create familiarity, bonds. Would it be wiser to keep my cards close, heart closed? You may or you may not. You may not, sir. You know what? I'm just gonna go full on trust this man until he stabs me in the face. And we'll see what happens. I'm lulling him into a false sense of security. That's my true evil plan. Ha ha ha. You may, of course. My name is... Ooh. My name is... What's a good name for this? Hold on, I'm gonna look up something real jiffy quickie. Give me a sec. Let me see. I'm looking up like winter-based names. I was gonna call her Elsa, but I'm like, I'm not gonna do Elsa. I'm gonna do something else. Let's see. Actually, I like this. How do you say that? Ooh, an Irish name. Okay. I got my name. Hold on. It is going to be, once I get everything back set up. Here we go. My name is Iceland. And it's an Irish name that means dream. I kind of like it. My name is Iceland.
Iceland.
He repeats, savoring each syllable.
That's lovely.
He sounds like he means it. There's a heart that still beats beneath his borrowed skin, that flutters at the sight of goodness and beauty, that thrums at the sound of a maiden's name. And yours? I ask.
Gabriel.
He smiles. Okay. Like the old angels, I murmur. If I were naive, I would wonder if he is old enough to remember the angels from the days long before the mists descended. Ooh, we getting that lore. Before any gods and their icons who watch from above fled as the undead and unsated plunged the earth into pestilence and death and rot. I would wonder, had he ever plucked an apple from the branches of Elysium, tasted its sweet flesh? But I know better. Ooh, I'm liking all this backstory. This is great. I love this world. It's so cool.
My parents were fond of the old tales, both of them for different reasons,
He says with a wistful smile. What reasons?
My father valued the strength of divinity. My mother valued their tales of virtue. A name can be a gift, and I treasure mine as I treasure their memory.
You must miss them.
I do.
He replies softly. I wait, but he does not continue. It's not enough. I need more. Show me what lies beneath your skin. Show me the beast that you are. Now that you've asked something of me, I say, I believe it's only fair I ask you a question in turn.
Very well, then ask away.
Ask about his purpose or his clothes. Well, he already said he's traveling. So he's probably not going to deviate from that. I'm curious what asking about his clothes leads to. Your clothes, they're so beautiful. I've never seen anything like them.
Thank you. They were made by someone very dear to me. I'm sure she'd be happy to hear it.
I see. But why wear nothing but white in the snow?
I often come to the mountains to hunt. My cloak protects against the cold, of course. I suppose it also lets me go unseen.
Unseen by your victims? But, sir, your clothes are too fine for a mere huntsman. You look fit to be, well, if not a prince, then a knight of the Queen's Guard at least.
The Queen? There is no queen that rules these lands. Unless you speak of the Mist Queen.
The Mist Queen, a figure shrouded in fog, in mystery, like her name, whispered around campfires in village squares, in sober tones, in drunken ones, in awe and reverence, but most often in fear. And that's the song we sang. I've seen her nights before, marching in the wilds, their pyres burned on the hillside for days. Do you believe that she's lived since the dawn of time? That she bathes in the blood of men to keep her beauty? I wonder if we're the Mist Queen,
Not for a moment.
You speak as if you know her.
Would you be afraid if I did? If I were a servant of the Queen?
No. I would call you a spinner of tall tales, good sir. I can scarcely believe she's an immortal at all. The Mist Queen and her Ashen Prince. They sound more like fairy tales than living, well, unliving people. After all, who can remember a time before the mists fell? Who can say whether the undying still walk this earth? Yet if you were only a servant, merely a pawn, I would think her unfit to be queen of anything at all. How poor her sense of virtue is.
You believe me to be virtuous.
Well, here you are helping a poor lost damsel in the snow.
It's only human to help others in need.
I shake my head. Some would disagree. Some would seek an advantage over others. That is human nature, my hunter. In any case, there is something gentle about you. I cannot think to place you among her scores of blood-soaked knights. He looks at me for a long time. I wonder if I have said too much.
You're a strange girl. A strange, bold girl.
A girl? I'm well past 20 summers, but do not think to ask how many, gentle hunter.
I shall not. Have you a family, then?
I did, though I was a stranger to them at first. They welcomed me into their home and became just like family to me. I loved them very much. But those days are gone now. He gives me a look of sympathy.
I'm so sorry. I'm like you. I once had a wife and son, but plague took them from me.
I'm sorry for your loss. I consider what to say next. Ask about his past, ask about his family. Let's ask about his family. If I may ask, how did you meet your wife?
I wasn't always a hunter. Once I was a young doctor in a small countryside town. She was my first patient. She'd injured her leg trying to rescue a lost sheep, and was so embarrassed she was rather unkind to me while I treated her. She warmed to me eventually, and I grew to love her stubbornness.
I'm just gonna take notes. Likes stubborn women. Alright, noted. A pained look flashes beneath his emerald eye. It hurts me more than I expected to hear him speak of her in those words, with that tenderness. What does that mean? Girl, what you talking about? Why did I ask? I'm sorry that you lost her, I say weakly. He does not reply for some time.
It was a long time ago now,
He says simply. Is that all you have to say? Even the wind is silent as we walk, the crunching of our footsteps the only sound in the night. It's a relief when he turns the conversation away.
I've spoken enough of unpleasant matters. Tell me something about you. What do you enjoy?
If you didn't know already, I enjoy singing. I love songs. When I sing, I never truly feel alone.
And you have talent for it indeed.
He looks about to speak, but hesitates.
Are you often lonely?
I'm quite used to it. Solitude is like an old friend to me now.
Sometimes I wonder. Is it better to be alone, or to spend your life with someone you cannot give your heart to?
Both of those sound lonely.
A wise man would seek a third route, But what if you had no other option? What if fate had tied you together like roots intertwined?
I like this one. I cannot imagine running away in solitude forever. I would think it just as lonely for the other person. Would you abandon them, leave them to their burdens, not even try to overcome the fate that you shared?
Forgive me. I've burdened us with heavy topics again. But I thank you for your insights.
Of course, gentle hunter. I search my mind for another question, another distraction, when suddenly a howl, long and low, cuts through the night. Wolves,
Stay calm.
he says in a hushed tone, folding his cloak around me as I clutch his arm. I did not realize I'd gripped him so tightly. Okay.
As long as I'm here, they won't approach.
His voice is soft and melodious, the song of a shepherd coaxing a lamb. This fear I feel isn't mine. It isn't mine, but it runs beneath my skin like a rapid coursing river. My mind cannot quell the instincts of a living heart, but I must overcome it. I keep alert for any sudden movement from him, but he makes none.
It's all right to be frightened. It's only natural. But you won't come to harm. I promise.
I just noticed your ribbon's actually made out of snowdrops. Wait, what the? How'd you do that? That's very cool. The same way a mouse is safe from the shrike when the eagle is near. We stayed that way, standing still in the shadows of the pines as the howls echo through the night, billow on the wind. I keep alert for yellow eyes peering from the darkness, but none appear. Perhaps the wolves too sense him, and know better than to strike. Out of instinct, I feel myself start to hum, a habit I never grew from, even when I no longer needed to calm my resting heart. I wish the pounding in my chest would still and turn to stone within its cage.
Go on.
He says, gentle, coaxing.
Sing. Let your worries wash away.
I take a deep breath. And then I sing. There she goes again. Misty-eyed, her eyes were bright, her hands were misty too. Her skin was pale and white as milk, dark hair wet with dew. Her gown 'twas not made of silk, but willow branch and yew. By the river's bend, how still she stood, as pale shadows bloomed. How black that night, save silvery light of distant star and moon. By the time I had finished the verse, the howls have stopped. The only voice on the wind is the whisper of thin branches whistling through the wood. I quickly let go of his hand. Too close. Not yet. Not here.
It's not far ahead now. Can you walk the rest of the way?
I'm fine. Onward, I follow as he leads me through the trees. The cottage comes into view as we turn the bend, almost as if conjured from the mist itself. Looks cozy. It is a small, quaint thing, a lonely, strange thing to see, placed there like it was plucked from a fairy story. Its wooden walls are aged but sturdy, its sloping roof coated in fresh snow. It should be the home of a living, breathing woodsman, not a creature of the night. I had never guessed you would hide yourself in a place like this. It's beautiful, I say.
It's the only place in the world I feel truly safe.
Its heavy door creaks open as he leads me inside. Ooh, what we got in here? Alright, likes to read. Good, this is good. The cottage is small, with short square windows and low walls, but appears well kept, a solitary home. Strings of dried herbs and fruit mint, horsetail, apples hang from the ceiling. I was wondering if that was apples. I didn't know you could hang apples like that. A table and stool sit at its center, stacked with clay pots and metal bowls. A stone hearth covers one wall, a narrow bed lined with fur sits against the other. A bookshelf, filled with a dozen or so well-worn tomes, stands proudly in a corner, even as it teeters beneath jars of more herbs and flowers. And we got some light. The scent of incense, sweet and heady, fills my nose as he lights the kindling in the hearth. The embers cast his skin aglow, his silver curls and pallid features painted softly in warm light. He unfastens his long snow-white cloak and tosses it onto the stool. Carefully, slowly, I slip my hands free from my sheepskin gloves. I feel his gaze, his green eye watching me as I unravel my shawl from my pale throat. My fingers, still numb from the cold, fumble with the clasp on my cape.
May I?
He asks, stepping towards me. I nod, shaking. His hands, even gloved, are deft, swift. A surgeon's hands. They free my shoulders of the deep red wool, set the fabric aside on the narrow bed. His gloved hand lingers near my collar. I do not move an inch. I scarcely breathe. Show me your true self. Show me what you are. He brushes my cheek, a whisper of a touch, like he is afraid to hold me, like I am a statue that could crumble away beneath his fingers.
May I?
He asks again, barely audible. Yes, I whisper back. He brushes a lock of my dark hair behind my ear, then gently, slowly, brings his lips to my skin. Damn! Well, you monsters move fast. I like it. I approve of this. I'm so glad I didn't have to pick an option for that. They are so soft. His touch is like the snow that lands on my face, carried by the winter wind. Cold, but light, feather light on my cheek. Gentle. Far too gentle. I don't want this delicate tenderness from him. I am not a fragile thing. Ooh, hello. I fold my hands around his neck, feel the downy softness of his hair as I slip my fingers through its ashen strands. He wraps me in his arms, holds me tightly, kisses my hair, trails his lips down my neck. I shiver. I tremble against him as his gloved hands run through my tresses, down my spine, feeling for the laces of my bodice. Damn, these guys move fast! Two monsters meet in the woods after the apocalypse and are like, yeah, let's go to the cabin and see who kills each other first? Maybe at the same time while making out? Yeah, let's go. He pushes me, gently, onto the furs, turns me onto my stomach as he parts my hair.
Found you. My queen.
I yelp as he pulls my hair sharply back from my head. Now I'm like, whoa, things are escalating. Tears bead in my eyes as his hand presses against my skull. He holds me still as I thrash beneath him, traces with his fingertips that mark on my skin I'd forgotten lay at the base of my neck. The crooked crescent moon that I'd carved into my flesh with a sharp iron knife. Ashen Prince! I knew we were the queen.
Might I humbly ask, as your loyal consort?
He whispers softly into my ear. Yes? What can I do for you? The fire crackles and roars, casting flickering shadows around us, but I feel nothing but ice run through my veins. There is no hunger in his voice, no warmth, no desire. Only white, cold fury.
Did you think you could fool me, Celine?
Who? I don't know what you mean. Let go of me.
Give this up, Celine. I've known you far too long for a new skin to deceive me. Why are you here? What game are you playing?
I swallow and go still, trying in vain to slow my racing heart. Steadying my voice, I say, "Let me go, my gentle hunter. I can hardly run from you here, can I?" I feel him hesitate for a breath, a moment that feels like a century before he loosens his hold on my tresses, lifts his weight from the bed, then stands. The relief I feel is short-lived. I curse myself that I shiver still at the memory, the whisper of his touch. That I'd lost my own senses, forgot for a moment who I was in this body. That I'd mistaken his tenderness for anything other than the luring of his prey. I shift upright on the bed. I don't trust my legs not to buckle under their own weight. He stands a few feet from me, a gloved hand over his pale lips as a sigh escapes them. Yet he does not need to breathe. How dramatic. Does looking at me, even in this borrowed form, disgust you so?
Would you care to enlighten me now, my queen?
He asks, folding his arms. I take another deep breath. I'm curious where this will go. I could ask the same of you, my hunter. Why don't you tell me, dear, why you're here alone in the mountains? Away from my castle, inviting pretty young things to your bed? I did not expect him to flinch at my words. The anger and pain that flashed through his face almost make me regret them.
You hardly count as a maiden, sweetheart,
He says sharply.
And when did you have any right to criticize me? I never said a word about the scores of bloodied hearts you left in your wake.
That is not what this is about.
Then what is this about? Did you follow me? Did you think you could have your way with me if you stitched yourself a pretty new face?
I did no such thing.
I know your victims have to die before you sew into them. Did you murder an innocent girl for this petty plan?
Ooh, she sews herself into people? Dang, is that where the needlework comment would have went? Oh, ooh. That final line makes my borrowed blood boil beneath my skin. You, how dare you, Gabriel? Have I ever been callous and unmerciful? Have I ever treated humans like my playthings? This girl was dead when I found her. He laughs. It is a short, dry, hollow sound, like the winter wind knocking against the walls.
You haven't changed at all. A plaything. Is that not how you treat her now, wearing her corpse like a summer gown?
I could try to calm the iron that pounds through my veins, the anger that courses with it. But I do not. I cannot. To have a heart unstill is to have thought and feeling ring through every beat. I let my long-buried rage, my pain, bleed through every vein in my being. Aren't you curious how she died, my loyal consort? I ask, mirroring his bitter, mocking tone.
Why? Why should I be?
She was killed, I seethe, by a beast wearing the skin of a man. One of our kind. His expression freezes. And she was not the first. Countless maidens have gone missing from the mountains, turning up dead, drained, and cold. Colder than your eyes are now. And now, who should I find here but you?
You think I did this? You think I killed them? Have you lost your mind?
Why would you hide yourself in the wilderness? Why would you disappear for months? Why wouldn't you tell me where you'd gone? He goes quiet again, staring at me with a deathly gaze. His next words are nearly a whisper, but if words had weight, his would be heavier than stone.
How dare you, Celine? How long have you known me? How many centuries have I followed you loyally?
I never forced you to serve me. I did not beg you to follow me. I always gave you a choice.
You didn't give me a choice when you turned me into this.
He hisses, motioning to himself as he parts his hair from his face with a violent gesture. I look away. I cannot stare back at those eyes. He's right, after all. After all this time, you still despise me.
I don't despise you. I despise myself for believing that you trusted me.
I do not reply. I hug my knees, still shaking, cursing my weakness, cursing the blood flesh beneath my skin, warm and flowing and despicably human. What was I thinking? I thought I had prepared myself well. I am the Mist Queen, a woman who has walked the earth for a millennium, wearing as many faces as the moon. It should be child's play to appear to him an innocent maiden, test his loyalty, his intentions, discern his innocence or his guilt. And then, should I have found him fallen from grace, then I would fulfill the promise I make to each and every one of my faithful vassals, should ever their hunger outweigh their humanity. Yet, with him, could I fulfill the oath I made so long ago, when I brought him back from death, ash cold in my arms? Even knowing he could now be a monster, changed from the loyal knight I knew, when I look at him now, I cannot see anything but the face of the kind young doctor I met in that sleepy town by the wood. So that was you! Dang, girl! Wow! That blew my mind. I love it. The face of the man I loved lifetimes ago. Perhaps the Mist Queen could steal her undead heart, cast aside her feelings. But foolishly, I'd forgotten one thing when I donned this skin. Flesh weighs down the spirit. Memories housed in a foreign mind may as well be half-remembered dreams. I do not feel like a monarch, a queen, because at this moment I am not. Now I am a girl of barely 20 summers, trapped with a man glaring death at her, though his face is of an angel's and his voice honey-sweet haunts her dreams. Just being in his presence fills her, me, with nothing but longing. How could I not hunger so desperately for his touch? How could I not wonder at the thoughts behind the mask of his eyes, if there was still a place for me inside his unbeating heart? My heartbeat thumps so loudly in my ears as we watch each other in silence. Finally, he takes his long cloak from the stool, fastens it around his shoulders, and moves toward the door, cracking it open as the night air creeps its tendrils inside the cabin. Where are you going? I shift, trying weakly to stand up.
To see if what you've said is true.
Liar. I know it when you avoid my gaze when you speak. You can't bear to be near me. You're leaving. Now.
I'll return.
Interesting. Now he's got his own little sprite in the corner there. He pauses by the doorframe, silhouetted against the snow, and inhales sharply.
Stay put. There's still much I would ask you once you've cooled your head.
Wait! He slams the door shut with a loud rattle. I don't hear his footsteps disappear into the cold, masked by the winter wind. Once I've cooled my head, you, with your bitter sighs, Gabriel, you need as much as I do to calm yourself. I take a deep breath, and another, trying to push the thoughts from my mind. I fight the tears threatening to spill from this helpless girl's eyes. My eyes. I grit my teeth and finally pull myself upright. My legs wobble, but are steady enough to walk around the cramped cabin. It's easier to breathe without him near me. Easier to think. I look at my surroundings. The fire still burns, offering precious warmth. Outside the short square window, the pines and birches bow in the wind. The night sky still swirls with snow. I think of the wolves, of yellow eyes and howls filling the shadows. I will not get far if I try to leave. Perhaps I could find something here. Perhaps there was evidence in this place he safeguarded so well of his guilt. I had yet to find my proof, after all, and I would not hurt him without it. I could not. I know that in my heart now. Yet, my deception has already failed. So much for this lovely skin. Am I merely fooling myself now? Was it time to abandon this body? Was it worth the risk to brave the night and its dangers to retrieve my old skin? Would I get another chance to if I simply stayed put and waited? Damn. Why you gotta ask me the tough questions, game? Sheesh. I feel like escaping is just death, no? At the same time, I don't want Gabriel to come back and be like, why are you snooping? I'm just gonna make a real quick save right there. Boop. There we go. I'm gonna be nosy. I decide to start by looking around the room. It is a picture of a warm and solitary home, if cramped and unkempt. Did he lure any victims here? Did any proof remain of lives taken and iron drained? The pain that flashed through his eye was real. I know him that well, at least. I know his every look, the shape of his mouth, the tilt of his head, how his unwavering gaze burns in my dreams. But what was the cause of that anguish? Anger? Or guilt? If my gentle wolf is not a killer, then what secrets does he keep? I sift through the piles of garments and fur strewn about, his clothes, worn and mended over the years with his familiar crooked stitching. I toss them aside indignantly. My hunter has dexterous hands even through his thick white gloves, but how he'd shake whenever he held a needle. I'd scoffed once when I saw how he struggled. Why should fabric trouble him when he'd once sutured flesh and sinew? He did not look at me nor speak to me for days. Some pieces are from recent decades, clean and neatly folded for once. I recognize each garment, cut and sewn by my own hand. A dark waistcoat I'd stitched with a pattern of overlapping feathers. A lace shirt I'd embroidered with tiny bell-shaped flowers and sickle-like leaves. How I nearly tore the skin off his back when he said he'd lost it. It almost feels as if the fabric in my hands is not clothing, but costume. A costume for a pretend prince in the awful play written of my unlife. But that's not untrue. Our second marriage was more false than the first. I think of his cold kisses on the back of my hand, on my hair, whenever he parted from me for distant lands, whenever eyes were upon us. How well he played the part of the perfect and loving consort. How skillfully he hid his distaste for me. How adept he was at keeping his secrets. What secrets are you hiding, Gabriel? There is nothing in the pile of clothing to suggest they belong to anyone but him. But just as I am about to set them aside, I notice something peeking out from beneath a moth-eaten coat. Gingerly, I fish it out. It appears to be a hard leather case. The straps that hold it closed are already loose. Cautiously, I pry it open. Inside it is an instrument, a wooden lyre carved with a pattern of graceful songbirds. It is no master craftsman's work, but it was clearly made with a patient hand. Its surface is clean and polished. I pluck its strings. They are still tuned. I cannot stop the bitter feeling that swells in my throat as I hold this imperfect but beautiful thing in my hands. I don't remember the last time he so much as hummed a tune beneath his breath. He never sang for me, not when I begged. I thought he had given up his music, buried his songs along with his past. It hurts now to know that wasn't the truth at all, that it was only me he would not sing for. Who, then? Who do you sing for out in the wilderness alone? Who gets to hear your precious songs? I imagine, for a moment, flinging the instrument into the fire, watching the precious wooden birds carved on its surface blacken and char in the hearth. A desire that only grows the more I look at it. Don't you do it. Don't you dare! I will fly through the screen and slap it out of your hands, girl. Look at this thing. It's gorgeous. It would be a crime. I stop that impulse before I do something I should regret. I look at the instrument and imagine him carving it painstakingly with his careful gloved hands, staining the wood, stretching taut the strings. I imagine him tentatively plucking the notes, drawing the song from the carved bird's beaks. I remember the other things I have broken and burned in front of him. On nights when I fed, when the memories were too much for my slow-beating heart to contain. Objects can always be replaced, I would say, more to console myself than him. Only once did I go too far. Only once did I take away something that could never be replaced. Though a lyre could be carved again, though it would feel satisfying to ruin it now, I know it would only lead to more regret soon after. What did you burn before, girl, that you regret? I carefully shut the case and place it back beneath the pile of his clothes. I sit with my head against my knees for a long while, trying not to think, remember, or feel. Finally, I turn and glance at the shelf filled with herb jars and piled tomes with a deep fatigue. Shaking off my weariness, I reach for a volume from the shelf. Its spine cracks as I open it. The pages are filled with his scrawling handwriting, notes and paragraphs in fading ink nearly swallowing myriad sketches of plants and herbs. You never were one for keeping idle, were you? I set the book aside, sink down to the floor, bury my head in my arms, and lean back against the bed. It's the living blood addling my senses, I think, but I can't bear how much his presence fills this place. I can imagine him, bent over the teetering table, jotting something down with his perfect, elegant, gloved hands, laying his head on the pillow, listening to the mountain wind, eyes blinking closed, sleeping off the iron imbibed from spirits nowhere, dreaming of something I can only guess at, for how many times have I heard him cry out in his sleep? It feels as if I am the intruder here. It feels as if this place itself is a piece of him I was never welcome to see. I continue my search without enthusiasm, finding no signs of any other inhabitants, willing or otherwise. It seems that no other soul has ever visited here. Or that he cleaned after himself well. Dang, so judgy. I love it. I stand up, only to collapse back onto the bed. The hours in the woods, the walk through the cold, the heated words, all have exhausted this weak and unfamiliar body. I need a moment's rest before I resume my search. I curse the iron, warm and flowing, running through my veins. The fire still burns in the hearth, and the furs are so soft. I only close my eyes for a moment. And that was my last mistake. Our flowers have changed. I wonder if we're seeing this from Gabriel's perspective? Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. I stand in a long, empty hallway. Darkness is all around me, blacker than a night without a moon. A polished mirror stands in a gilded frame. I step toward it, my footfalls making no sound. Mirror, mirror on the wall. My face stares back at me. Okay, it's us. We just be dreaming. Ashen and pale, framed by dull dark hair, like a dim moon on a foggy night. My eyes are like slate, cold, gray, lifeless. I close them. When I open them again, she is gone. A new face stares back at me. A young woman with glossy black locks, bright red lips, and eyes that twinkle like jewels.
Like what you see, my queen? Wanna rip it off and wear it yourself?
She asks, mouth twisting in a wicked smile. Ew, well, that's friendly looking. I step back from the mirror, but her voice still rings, growing louder.
Do you remember my name, Celine?
She asks.
Do you remember the name of the corpse you stole from her grieving parents?
Maya, I stammer. I had no choice. The girl in the mirror twists and morphs, screaming, laughing, flesh shifting and turning until her skin rests finally in a shape far too familiar. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Do you remember my name, Celine? Do you remember the name you borrowed when you stole my skin, wore my flesh, played house with my corpse?
Whoa! Hello. All right. Of course I remember. Your name? What? What is happening? You know what? I'm just gonna go with what it gives me. Yep, that was it.
Calliope.
What's his name?
Endymion.
The Eternal Dreamer. It fits him.
He laughs, gently petting the sleeping lamb. Autumn, 336 years ago. Sure. Sure it is. Dang. So cool. Maybe the flowers change because of who we are at this point? That's probably what it is. I was lucky, beyond lucky, when I found this body. This poor woman, of course, was not. She'd slipped and broken her neck, falling from a muddy trail in the hills. A foolish risk to take, all for a helpless lamb. I could have drained her body dry, and oh, I was tempted. I was ravenous that day when I found her, full to bursting with iron. But I tempered my hunger. I stitched her back up very, very carefully until she looked as good as new, like she'd never so much as taken a tumble. Well, save the crescent moon carved beneath the crook of her collar like an old faded scar. Hungrier than ever in my brand new skin, I devoured the lamb. Okay. Then I walked through the hills, through the wood to her, now my, home. How do you know? So, like, when you sew yourself into people, like, do you get some of their memories and you're like, I know where I live? With her flock all to myself, I would not go hungry for quite some time. You know, that's actually smart. Wow, we're in a village. She was an eccentric one, to say the least, this girl. Solitary and aloof, she kept to herself with only her prize sheep as company. The townsfolk whispered unkind things about her. She showed them little interest in turn. Who would notice if her mind and heart had turned? Her animals did at first, but they learned quickly to obey their new master. I had roamed for a very, very, very long time. Now, to suddenly spend my days in a quaint countryside town, tending fluffy, fat, white sheep as the days and seasons passed me by. Such idleness was like Arcadia. Pure, wonderful, halcyon calm. My new form wasn't terrible to look at, either. It was strange to see her face stare back at me in the creek surface, her large, dark eyes and round, freckled cheeks. But her hair was lovely, bright red like flames, like the fleeting leaves of autumn before they wither and cover the ground in muddy, dying browns. Spring and autumn. I'd always loved the transitory seasons. Cool but bright, and unlike my kind, fleeting. Winter, then spring, then summer had all passed when he arrived. The greens had just begun to turn to gold, copper, and ruby. The nights bled longer into the days, sunsets and sunrises streaking through the sky like open wounds. Like many creatures that stalked through the waxing cold, I was hungry. Hungry for human blood. I thought he was a traveler. I had never seen his face before. I would remember it if I had. His steps were so light I barely heard them sound throughout the forest trail. But I could hear his voice, clear as a bell, humming a small song to himself. I listened, and I watched him through the trees. He wore plain clothes, mended and remended with clumsy stitches. He was tall, his strides were long. His hair too was long and fell loosely behind his back, its silver strands framing his brow. How it shone in the evening sun, whiter than the fleece of a lamb. I waited as he drew near. And then I screamed. I didn't expect to slip and genuinely hurt myself. This would be me. Like, and then I will strike. Ah, crap, I hurt myself. I didn't expect to need his help. It was your fault for distracting me, I say, more to myself than to him. I'd kick you if it wasn't for this bloody sprain. Look at him! Oh my goodness.
I can't advise that, demoiselle. You'll hurt yourself again.
Man, I can't believe they met again with her being the one to sing in the woods this time. And he called her demoiselle twice. Man. Oh, my heart. He sobs as I lean against him and mutters something unintelligible.
Do you need to rest?
He asks softly, voice tinged with concern. You've only just met me. Why do you care? Carry me back. I can't walk anymore. I didn't expect him to literally sweep me off my feet. Heh, got her. I was joking,
This is fine.
he says as lightly as my body apparently weighs.
You're like a feather.
So cute, look at them. Oh, my heart. Just hurry back before it gets too dark.
It'll be all right. The moon is full tonight, see?
Ah. The trees in the path ahead clear their branches from the sky. As he walks, I look up and see her full, bright face shine down on me. So she is, I murmur. The lamb is much more weary than I am, forced to walk the long trail on its own legs, and falls fast asleep at its mother's side.
What's his name?
The stranger, no longer a stranger, asks. Who?
This little one whom you went through so much trouble for.
He replies, motioning to the slumbering lamb. I look up at the sky, at the moon and her stars, and say the first thing that comes to mind. Endymion.
The eternal dreamer. It fits him.
He laughs, gently petting its soft fleece. There is something beautiful about the sound of his laughter as it leaves his lips. It reminds me of the notes of a lyre, lovingly tuned, of a song I'd once heard in a time and place far, far away from these sleepy woods. Perhaps it's the blood that flows within me, the fatigue of this human frame. Night was never the domain of the living, that plays with my senses. It feels for a moment like I am standing inside a deep and pleasant dream. The wind gently caresses a strand of his long hair, silver as the moon above us, as he turns to me with a look of embarrassment.
How silly of me. I asked for this young lad's name before yours, demoiselle. My name is Gabriel,
He says warmly.
and you are.
The days grew colder and darker, autumn bleeding into winter. The old year breathed its last, a new one sprung from its ashes as the nights grew shorter. My body did not change, but the world around me did. The days grew warmer as the earth bloomed into spring and then finally summer. Like the seasons, my aloofness at his presence gradually turned to acceptance. And then, before I knew it, fondness. Soon after, he was in my thoughts every night. Instead of the nightmares, the centuries of memories that tormented me in my sleep, I saw his face smiling. I heard his voice, clear and lilting, soothing me with a gentle song. He had always smiled at me, even when I stared past him, stone-faced, arrogant, disinterested. But now when I smiled back, the way his eyes would shine and brighten his entire face, I felt that of all the people in the world, I was the only one you looked at that way. Ah! The day would come when he knelt before me on one knee. I can't marry you, I tell him, steeling my voice. I turn my back so he cannot see my face.
Won't you tell me why?
He asks quietly, with tenderness, without hurt. Because this body will wither soon when the blood of my flock runs dry, or the villagers find out what I am. Because to be at your side heightens that risk 100-fold. Because I am not among the living, though my cheeks grow red and my heart flutters against my will when I look at you, when I hear you speak these words. They make me forget what I am, make me wish for what I must never desire. I can't give you children.
I know, but I'm not a lord or a prince. I don't need you to bear my flesh and blood. Besides, I know nothing can replace the lambs as your little ones.
I wish I could tell you I tend to them so tenderly because they are my lifeblood. I hardly have the means to keep a hearth and home. You've seen the way I live.
But you can stitch and sew like no one I've ever seen. And I'm a half-decent cook at the very least.
If only you weren't so sweet. I still cannot...
Do you dislike me?
No, spirits,
If you don't feel the same for me, then I'll leave your side at once and forever.
You fool. I love you more than you could ever imagine. I love you more than the moon loves her fiery star, more than anything and everything I've ever held dear in the long centuries I've walked through mist and earth. I want so much to hold you and never let you go.
Then don't torture me so. Please say yes. Please make me the happiest man in this world.
If only I were myself, my true self, could I have refused you. But I was not. At that moment, I wore and I was the foolish young woman who loved you. Aw. They were so cute. Stop. There was guilt in the back of my mind and the far corners of my heart in the days that followed. Guilt, a foolish and human emotion. But I was so happy. I could bury it beneath the flood of joy that flowed through me, that poured from my heart like a fountain. It seeped back, slowly, a poison in my veins on the eve we were wed. I knew that to take your hand, to walk this path, was to take a step I could not turn back. That perhaps the gods and their icons, if ever they lived, would not forgive. Yet I was steeped so much in sin and blood and cruelty already. I had taken so much, stolen so much to continue my existence. But I did not merely wish to simply exist any longer. You made me wish, for the first time since I had truly been alive, to live. Perhaps he sensed that hesitation, the feeble, silent cry of my conscience.
We don't have to. We can wait if you're not ready.
Why did his words only make me grow hungrier? Oh no! I am. I want this. I shut his soft, sweet lips with mine. The body that I wore when I spoke my vows to you was both living and unliving. A body that was not mine to live with, to love with. Woo! Dang, he has such long hair. But the heart that beat like a butterfly's wings when you kissed me traced the crooked moon beneath my collar as you slipped free the laces from my wedding gown. It beat like my own. The skin that lighted like embers as you held me in your hands. Every inch of it felt like my own. I loved him too much to stop. I hungered more for his touch than the sweetest taste of iron on my tongue. Though the name he whispered into my ear was not mine, the tenderness with which he spoke it belonged only to me. What did it matter what shape I wore, what form his fingers traced, or gentle arms embraced? Your arms were made only to hold me. Your eyes were made only to behold me. Your heart should beat only if it loves me. There, laying my head against his chest, lulled by the rhythm of his gentle heart, I thought of my body, my true body, lying cold beneath the earth. I wish that I, could feel this warmth. This fragile thing that I had now in my hands, I would cling to it until death again parted me from him. until my unaging, undead form finally grew still. It would be a love as fleeting as a red leaf flitting through the autumn wind. Perhaps it was cruel of me to do so, but I could be no less callous than fate or time. Humans can hold memories for a lifetime after all, yet they move ever forward. Because they must. Because that is what it means to walk among the living. He would live a long, storied life, and I would be a brief but cherished memory in his heart, just as I would hold him forever in my immortal and unbeating one. You killed him, didn't you, to turn him into something like you? That's what you did, didn't you? Oh no, I can see it. Or so I had thought. That night, cradled in his arms, I see the face of the girl whose skin I wear in my dreams, melting away into blood and bone. You have some terrible dreams. Ah, man, 333 years ago. I gotta do another time skip. No. Unfortunately, I gotta stop there. I'm so invested in this story. It's written so well. The whole ambience of everything in this is just so good. It's chilling. It's dark, but there's like this, I mean, there's a fairy tale quality to it with this dark undertone of just like, oh no. Oh, my heart's just breaking for Gabriel and Celine so badly. Like, oh, these poor guys. I love like the whole backstory and the lore and everything that's being put in here. And it looks gorgeous too. This is wonderful. I could keep playing, but I must stop myself. I'm sad, but I must stop here for today. Thank you guys, though, for joining me. Thank you to Eli again for asking me to play this. As you can tell, I enjoyed myself immensely. If you guys would like to continue the story and play the demo for yourself, I'll have links to it for both Steam and itch.io down below in the description, as well as a link to Eli's other games that he's made. So yeah, please, I encourage you to go check him out, give him some support, and I hope you guys have fun while checking out the demo for this game, because I had a great time. I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw today. Thanks again for joining me. Until next time, I will see you later.